Welcome, I am your instructor Janine, and in this video we are going to discuss all the legends, patterns, celestial objects, and star clusters that are within the constellation of Taurus the Bull. We begin with the legends of Taurus. Taurus is one of the most oldest known constellations. There are so many variations that we won't really only cover just a few of the legends that exist. Taurus, however, is mostly associated with the start of the new year in many cultures, as the rise of the star cluster Pleiades signifies new beginnings. The oldest known depiction of Taurus dates back as far as 17,000 years. The caves of Lascaux in France contain many ancient Paleolithic cave drawings, including bulls, bears, crows, unicorns, plus much, much more. This drawing is thought to be of Taurus because it contains the star cluster now known as the Pleiades. And just to give you a little bit of history about this site, these caves were discovered in 1940 by a group of teenage boys exploring the area. And at one time, it attracted many, many visitors to this unique spot. But with the onslaught of so many people visiting this World Heritage Site, the caves began to have mold, lichen, and fungal contamination problems, and now only a few scientists and historians are allowed within the site. If we were to explore a little bit further within the caves, this is what's known as the Hall of Bulls, and a recent discovery of this 17,000-year-old cave is that the original opening faced the setting sun on summer solstice. Try saying that 5 times fast. The sun has been observed to enter the chambers for 1 hour on this date. A survey of several other Paleolithic caves nearby has demonstrated a correlation between cave art and cave openings that face important parts of the solar cycle. Other cultures throughout history have also seen a bull in the stars. To the Sumerians, Taurus may have represented the bull of light dating back to 3500 BC. The golden calf of the Israelites may have also been a representation of Taurus. Taurus is depicted in one of the earliest works of literature called the Epic of Gilgamesh, where the goddess Ishtar sends Taurus, the bull of heaven, to battle Gilgamesh for refusing her advances. In this ancient Mesopotamian legend, Gilgamesh is thought to be Orion, and he battles Taurus. So if we look at where Orion is sitting in the sky, you can see he is right next to the constellation of Taurus, and these two face each other in an epic battle. In ancient Egypt, the bull was associated with a deity called Apis. Apis was an actual bull that was chosen as the earthly vessel of the god Osiris, the god of the afterlife. On the death of each Apis, the spirit of Osiris transferred itself to a successor. This sacred bull has very specific markings and characteristics, and when this animal was identified, it became an object of reverence and sacrifice. In Greek mythology, Zeus was often represented as a white bull with golden horns. This painting shows the abduction of Europa, and in the form of the bull, Zeus seduced and abducted her to the island of Crete, where she eventually became queen and mother to King Minos of Crete. Taurus may have also been depicted as the Cretan Minotaur of Greek mythology, a creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man. He was known to live in the labyrinth, which was an elaborate maze that was created at the command of King Minos of Crete. There are countless representations of the Minotaur in ancient legends throughout Greek mythology, as well as in recent pop culture references. But this just goes to show you how deep the legend of Taurus really goes. One of my favorite stories of Taurus comes from Polynesian mythology and explains how the Pleiades, a beautiful star cluster in Taurus, came into existence. According to legend, this famous group of stars was once a single star that was the brightest of all in the sky, and this star boasted of its own beauty. So one day, the god Tane picked up the bright red star in Taurus, now called Aldebaran, and hurled it across the sky at the boastful star, smashing it into pieces. The end result is what we see now, and it is still a very beautiful group of stars, just not a single star, and we call this star cluster the Pleiades. Overall, since Taurus is one of the most oldest constellations known, it has so many stories and legends, and after my research, I only included just a few of those legends. What is completely fascinating to me is that humans, as far back as 17,000 years ago, maybe even further, witnessed the beauty of the bull and its bright stars and legendary star clusters. Now that you're familiar with the legends of Taurus, let's move on to the pattern of what it looks like in the sky. When we take a look at the star chart, we are going to be looking at this particular section, which is a winter sky. Taurus starts to appear in late November, early December, and then it really peaks in the month of January. If we zoom in a little closer, you can see here is Orion, the very first constellation you should be looking for in the winter sky, and Taurus is situated right next to Orion. I would like to introduce you to our very first picture of Taurus, a constellation. So as you take a gander at this photo, try to notice some of the things that stand out to you. Which stars are the brightest? Do they have any different colors? Do you notice any star clusters? Can you find the Milky Way galaxy situated in the background of this constellation? Moving forward, here's what the pattern looks like. You can see there's a V-shaped face right here, and then the bull's horns come off of that V-shaped face. Hopefully in the last photograph you also noticed the Pleiades, that very famous star cluster that I mentioned earlier. I will constantly refer to the Pleiades because if you can find this cluster, you can find the rest of the constellation. Take a look at our second picture of Taurus and start to see if you notice any of the items I pointed out to you earlier. Can you see the Pleiades? Do you notice the bright stars? Does anything look different to you than the last picture? If you still want time to figure out where Taurus is in this photograph, I want you to hit pause. Give yourself some time to try to trace out where the pattern is. And when you're ready, hit play again, and I'll go over what the pattern looks like. So here is our pattern of Taurus. And if you notice anything that looks really different from last time, it would be this right here. This is actually a picture of the moon moving through Taurus. And this would make sense because Taurus is a zodiacal constellation, which means the ecliptic passes through it. So the path of the moon, sun, and stars move through this constellation at some point. Perhaps you're noticing this bright star as well. I will review more in detail what this star is coming up in the video, but its name is Aldebaran, and it should have a reddish, orangish color tint to it. It's often called the red eye of the bull, and it's situated on the bottom part of the V-shaped face. Here is where the Pleiades are again, and this is probably, after the moon, the thing that stood out to you most. Here is another depiction of what Taurus looks like, and I show this to you for a few reasons. One is I want you to get used to the fact that many different books and sources and sites will show you different variations on the pattern of Taurus or just any constellation in general. But Taurus still has a general pattern of having this V-shaped face with the horns coming off of it and having Pleiades be a part of it. Here in this depiction, you can see this perhaps could be the front legs of Taurus. So it just looks a little different than the other versions that I showed you. Moving on, here is another photograph of Taurus. It doesn't have the entire constellation, But hopefully, after the third or fourth time of seeing this constellation, you're starting to get an idea of where things are in the constellation. So again, if you need more time to try to figure it out, which is perfectly fine, hit pause, and then I'll come back and you can see what it looks like. Okay, spoiler warning, here it is. Here is the shape of Taurus. So we've got the V-shaped face, we have the Pleiades, and the horns are just not shown in this photograph. One of the stars of Taurus is part of the asterism called the winter hexagon. This asterism is an informal way to help you find all the constellations of the winter sky. And the bright red star, the red eye of the bull called Aldebaran, is one of the points of the winter hexagon. Now let's take a look at all the constellations in the winter sky. And let's see if you can pick out where the winter hexagon is. So to do that, you want to notice the bright stars that exist within this picture and see if you can start to connect the dots into a hexagon pattern shape. It may not be a perfect hexagon, but you can get fairly close to it. To me, what I first notice is this bright star right here. And if I start to connect the dots, coming up here, there, down here, down, that is our winter hexagon. Although I have to admit on the first try I wanted to go here, but technically this isn't a star but a star cluster. Hopefully at this point you're figuring out which star cluster it is and what its name is and how famous it is. So to point this out for you, here is where the winter hexagon is, and I also pointed out the winter triangle for you. Just as a reminder, we have the star Sirius, we have Procyon, we have Pollux and Castor of Gemini, we have Capella of Auriga, Aldebaran of Taurus. Here's our bull right here, actually right there. Can't forget the horns. And then we come down, this is Rigel of Orion. Sirius is a part of Canis Major, which I didn't say before, and this is a part of Canis Minor. And then right here, this is Betelgeuse, which is a part of Orion. I'd like to give you one more final picture of all the winter constellations in the sky at once. I want to do this because I want to help you practice on how to find Taurus. Whenever you're looking at the winter sky, the first constellation you want to look for is Orion. Orion is a video that you had in the previous video, so I'm hoping you're able to point that out. If you can point out Orion, try to find the 3 belt stars. Once you find the 3 belt stars, try making a line with the belt stars moving upwards and see if that can direct you to where Taurus is. The belt stars of Orion do direct you to the red star of Aldebaran within the face of Taurus. The belt stars also, if you aim down and follow them, will point you to Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. So let me point these out for you. Here you have Orion, and I asked you to find the belt stars and lead you up to find Aldebaran, the bright star of Taurus, the V-shaped face. Here are the horns, right there. Here is the Pleiades as well. Coming back to Orion, if you aim downwards, here's where you can find Sirius. And if you'd like to know where all the rest of the constellations are, here they are. We have Taurus, Orion, Canis Major, Canis Minor, which you can find using the shoulders of Orion. Orion will also lead you up to Gemini. It'll also aim you towards Auriga, And I haven't taught this one to you, but here is Cancer. And we know it's Cancer because of this star cluster right here. And back to Taurus, here's the other star cluster called the Pleiades. So far, I've introduced you to the legends of Taurus, to its pattern, and now I'd like to review with you the bright stars and celestial objects in a little bit more detail. If we take a look at a constellation map of Taurus, I want you to notice the bright stars that stand out to you. And you can tell that they're bright based upon the size of the dot that represents the star. So looking here, we have Aldebaran, and we also have Elnath. Are you able to point those two stars out on this diagram? Where is the bright red star? That would be Aldebaran. If you can find Aldebaran, you should be able to find the V-shaped sideways face of Taurus. Find Alnath. Moving upwards, it's the brighter star out of the two that make up the horns of the bull. If you need a little bit more assistance with what the pattern looks like, here you go. Aldebaran is the alpha star of Taurus, which means it's the brightest star out of all the rest in this constellation. Its name means the follower, and that is an Arabic name. It is the orange-red star at the bottom part of the V-shaped face that is leaning sideways. And it looks like it would be a part of this V-shape cluster, which happens to be a cluster called the Hyades, which I will review in a little bit. But Aldebaran is actually not a part of the V-shaped face of Taurus in terms of distance and celestial objects. It is 68 light years away from Earth. So again, it's brighter because it is fairly close to us. The beta star of Taurus is called Elnath, or it could be spelled either way. I've seen it both ways. And it's the Arabic name that stands for the budding one. And that's most likely because it is one of the tips of the horn of the bull. And this star is actually shared with another constellation called Auriga. I'll be teaching you about that one in another video. Elnath is 130 light years from Earth, so it's not as close as Aldebaran, but still, it's within our little local star area within where the sun is. Going back to our star map, I'd like to review now the different celestial objects that are embedded within Taurus. Before I go over each one in detail, I want to point this out to you on the map. So we have Aldebaran right here, and then the Hyades is this whole entire V shape. Okay, it has a lot of different stars here, actually over 200 stars. So it's quite an amazing star cluster, especially if you can view it through a set of binoculars. The other celestial object I'd like to go over is called the Pleiades. And then the final one is called Messier number 1. And this is amazing supernova remnant. It's very difficult to see with binoculars. If you have a telescope, you'll see a little smudge of light. But when you get to zoom in it with a high power telescope, it really is a beautiful sight to see. Let's begin by looking at the Hyades, which is the largest star cluster in the constellation of Taurus. It is a group of about 200 stars, and they're fairly close to Earth, only about 150 light years away. The Hyades is best observed in binoculars, and when you do take a look at it through binoculars, you'd be surprised to see how many stars are actually there. In the Greek mythology legend, the Hyades were known to be the nymphs who were born of Atlas, and Atlas was the Titan who bore the starry dome of heaven upon his shoulders. They had a brother called Hyades, and he was killed in battle with a lion, and the sisters were placed in the sky in order to mourn their brother. And it is said that when Hyades starts to rise, it is the bringer of the rainy season. And that is because the sisters are continually crying about their brother Hyades and therefore bringing rain into the mortal world. If we take a look at a zoomed up version of what the Hyades looks like, this is what we're looking at here. This is what it would be close to what you're seeing in a pair of binoculars. However, there is a lot of stars in the background here that shine through as well. But if we take a look at what the map of the Hyades star cluster looks like, this is a picture of the main stars within there. However, there are 200, so there's a lot to be said. Aldebaran right here is not a part of this star cluster, okay? Even though they are situated close to each other in the sky, they are not related to each other. So if you get a chance and you have some sort of magnification that you can use in the sky, the Hyades are a really great thing to look at because it's easy to point out, and it is one of the most studied star clusters because of its distance from Earth. It's very close at only 150 light years away. The next star cluster I'd like to discuss with you is called the Pleiades. It's also known as Messier object number 45, and it's a group of about 1,000 stars. It is estimated that there could be more there with some binary star systems that are just unaccounted for. And it's about 8 light years in diameter and 415 light years away from Earth. So again, it's a relatively close star cluster in relation to many other things out there. The Pleiades are best observed within binoculars, and to the unaided eye, it sometimes looks like a little mini dipper. I know when I've taken out different people to stargaze, many have said, "Oh, I always thought that was a little dipper. I never realized it was a star cluster." And if you look at it here, you can see how it has a little bit of that shape. And the Pleiades are such an important star cluster because it has been known in so many cultures throughout the world, each representing something different within the culture. But the Celts, the Maori civilizations down in New Zealand, Aboriginal Australians, Persians, Arabs, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Sioux, the Cherokee, all these different civilizations and cultures across the world have identified this star cluster and have recognized it before. So if we take a closer look at what it looks like, here is what you can see the 6 main stars here. And there's a little bit of a mystery about this because in some cultures they say there are 7 main stars, but that 7th main star may have dimmed over the past 3 years. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main stars right here. And if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see that there's some nebulosity in here. And this is a longer exposure photograph in which you can see some of the nebulosity from this star cluster shine through. And I put this quote up here because I thought it was really beautiful, and it's written by Lord Tennyson, a British poet. And he even acknowledged the beauty of this star cluster. And he said, "Many a night I saw the Pleiades rising through the mellow shade, glitter like a swarm of fireflies tangled in a silver braid." And I have since shown this star cluster to my own children, who at the time of this video that I recorded were 4 and 6. And my 4-year-old, when she saw this, she said to me, "Look, Mommy, there's spirits dancing in the sky." And it really was a wonderful memory I have with having stargazing time with my kids and realizing what they say. Well, you just can never predict what they say or what they think or what they feel when they look at the stars. And my hope for you is, as you go outside and look at these different things, that you just realize there's things out there that are bigger than us. And if we can share that with our children, I think it's a really important thing to do. Moving on, here is another closer up image of the Pleiades. I feel like I never get tired of looking at this star cluster. It's just a really special one. And they have also been known through other names. They've been known as the Seven Sister Stars. The Japanese call it Subaru. In fact, that's their little insignia, or their logo on the Subaru cars is named after this. The Hawaiians called it Makahiki. It was the bringer of the new year. And again, another picture. And if we would look a little bit closer, this is what it would look like as it's mapped out. So the main stars here have different names that were after Greek figures in my mythology. And this shows you, this is about 3 light years from here to here. So in reality, the entire distance would be about 8 light years. So if you ever get a chance to look at this star cluster through a telescope, through binoculars, it really is a fascinating one to see and very easy to point out in the winter sky. Here's another artifact. This is one of the earliest known depictions of the Pleiades, and it was likely a Bronze Age artifact, and this is known as the Nebula sky disk, and it's dated to be about from 1600 BC. So again, if you ever get a chance to see the Pleiades, I encourage you to share this with others because it really is a fabulous star cluster to see. The final object I'd like to teach you about in Taurus is called Messier number 1. It also has an alternate name called the Crab Nebula, and I remember as a little girl when I started really learning about astronomy, this for some particular reason always fascinated me, and it is a ancient remnant of an exploded star, and any star that explodes because its mass is just so great and has ran out of all its fuel is called a supernova. And in 1054 AD, this was recorded in our skies, and it was so bright that it could actually be seen during the day. And that might be a hard concept for us to realize that, wow, we can actually see a stellar object during the day besides the sun. So it would have been really awesome to see that at that time. And this is what the Crab Nebula, it is a little bit of falsely colored here to show you the different structure, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. But when you look for this, you're going to want to look for this little fuzzy patch of light that's located in the dimmest of the horns of Taurus. So here is the beta star of Taurus. You want to just go down to the bottommost star there in the horns and see if you can find the fuzzy patch of light. You are able to see it through binoculars. It's not as easy to find. If you have a telescope, you'll have an easier time finding it. But if we would take a high-powered telescope, this is what we would end up seeing. And as you can see, it really just looks like something that was blown apart. And there is inside here a leftover hot neutron star, or the leftover core of the star that once used to be here, and you can just tell it just looks like it was blown to smithereens. And if we take a look at this nebula, the fact that it's called a nebula is it's a little bit misleading because it really is a supernova remnant. And I think the name the Crab Nebula has just stuck over time. And if we were to look at this through other different electromagnetic radiation, this is what we would see. Okay, here you can see there's radio waves coming out of here, there's microwaves. This is what it looks like infrared. This is what it looks like looking at the visible light spectrum. There are some ultraviolet radiation coming out of here. I think the X-ray is super cool looking. You can tell it just looks like this swirl and jets of X-rays coming out of it. And then here's what it looks like if we scan it using gamma rays. So it is a very highly studied celestial object. It's one that I wanted you to be familiar with if you are going to take time to look through Taurus and see if you can find this spectacular sight. And here's one more picture I wanted to share with you. We, our scientists, have detected over 30 different kinds of elements in this particular interstellar medium. And it has been thought that this is how elements, anything that's larger than iron, has been created, is through a supernova. That's the only kind of um, powerful event that can create any kinds of objects, because once a star starts to make iron, that's pretty much its limit, and anything larger has been created in a supernova at some point in time. Well, we have come to the end about our video of Taurus the Bull. I know this was a longer video, but there is so much rich information and legends and history about this constellation that I just really love sharing it with you. So to recap everything, Taurus is best seen in the winter months, particularly January and February. It's very high in the sky. It is a zodiacal constellation, so the sun, moon, and planets do pass through this particular constellation. The way to find it is you really want to see if you can find the Pleiades. You want to be able to find this star cluster. And if you can find that star cluster, aim yourself toward the red eye of the bull. You can also use the 3 stars of Orion to help you point out Aldebaran, the red eye of the bull. And Taurus would be down here. In fact, this is one of the shoulders of Orion. So you would use the belt stars to aim you up to point towards Taurus. The brightest star here is Aldebaran. It is reddish, and it's always going to be on the bottom side of the V that's tilted to the side. Cool celestial objects that you can find. You have the Hyades, which is the V-shaped face right here. You have the Pleiades right there. And then you also have, if you look in this region, you can try to find the Crab Nebula. And of course, I'd like to review with you what one interpretation of this constellation looks like. You should be able to find the horns, the face, the Pleiades are in the shoulder, and then some depictions of the constellation have the legs of the bull right there. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this particular constellation, be sure to leave your questions in the comments section below, or if you want to share your experience of observing this constellation, I'm sure other students in this class would appreciate it. Also remember that there is a worksheet that was attached to this, so hopefully you have been able to fill out that worksheet as you watch this video. That's very important to do because the key to remember things is really writing it down. And of course, you need to go outside to view this constellation. Make sure you're going out during the winter months. You're not going to see it in the summer unless maybe you stay out till the sun is starting to come up. But you want to make sure you're going out at the right time and giving yourself practice. Practice is what makes perfect, and it is always better if you can take others out with you and share what you know. Thank you so much, and again, leave your comments or questions below.